Well, this is JC Unplugged. Thank you for watching. And next to me, that is Joe P, and he is with the Evil Knievel Experience. Joe, I am so excited about the grand opening. It's happening this weekend. You and I spent some time together earlier this week inside the Evil Knievel Experience. Oh my gosh, how big is that museum?
We've got 31,000 square feet chock full of action and adventure.
It's huge. It's huge. Before we get into the story of Evil Knievel, and you've got so many great stories to share. That's why I wanted to have you on my show this week to kind of expand on the life and legacy of Evil Knievel. But what can fans expect when they walk into that experience? Because I wasn't expecting to see that much stuff.
We have dozens of motorcycles. We've got about a dozen vehicles, including his big red, he calls it big red Mack truck. It's a circus wagon. And when this double semi truck pulls into your town, you know something big is about to go down.
Let's talk. And I'm gonna be all over the place here because there's so much to get into. Let's talk about that big red truck, that Mack truck that you guys have on display. That was actually Evil Knievel's truck, and he would toured the country to kind of get hype going around his next jump or his next stunt.
Yeah, that's right. It had two purposes. One was to actually physically haul, like the logistics of his operations. He's got all his ramps in there that he used throughout his entire career. 3 motorcycles and usually a vehicle that he could get around town in when he gets to town. And then it also has a dressing room where he would do interviews and prepare for his stunts. Yep.
Yeah, it was
And
neat because we went inside that thing, and I don't know if I was supposed to be sitting down because we were live on Good Day Las Vegas, and Joe was kind enough to open up like the plexiglass so we can step inside and get a great shot of it. And I said to Joe, I'm like, why don't we just sit down on Evil's furniture and do the interview? And we did. And I don't know if we're supposed to be doing that, but that was as an Evil Knievel fan, it was a treat to be sitting in like the same area that he did so many interviews from when he was crisscrossing the country promoting his shows.
yeah, I could tell you felt right at home.
You mentioned something. Evil used the same jumps for every single jump that he did.
Yeah, but he used the same ramps through his entire career. Yeah.
What?
So the ones that you'll see at the museum are the ones that he used at Caesar's Palace, for example. He shipped them across the ocean. He used them at Wembley Stadium and then brought them home and did Kings Island, Ohio. All of his jumps were on that same set of ramps.
It's neat to see that history right there in front of you. What Evil Knievel? What was his very first? Yeah, like I know he started out doing stunts as a kid, but what was his first like public stunt that he did?
Yeah, public jump. I say Moses Lake, Washington, because that's it's a fun story. But he kind of rounded up some lions out of a roadside attraction that was a zoo, and finagled that guy out of them and set up a box of rattlesnakes. Brought in a whole bunch of people and then jumped over it, kind of clipped the top of the rattlesnakes, and the box tumbled over. The bleachers were like full, like sold out. And the rattlesnakes are jailbreak. So it's a fun story, but that was his first, I would say.
I've heard of the first jump of jumping lions and rattlesnakes. I didn't know that he hit the box of rattlesnakes. They go like flying into the crowd, or all of a sudden you're watching Evil Knievel. And there's like a dozen rattlesnakes just now hitting the spectators.
Yeah, right. And they all flee. It's mayhem.
The timeline of when then did the Caesar's Palace jump come into play? Because that was kind of early in his career, no?
Right. Yes, you're right. Yeah, Caesar's Palace had just been built in Las Vegas. It's a $25 million hotel casino built by Jay Sarno. And Knievel contacted him in 1967. So there's a boxing match at Caesar's Palace. And Knievel could not afford to stay at this palatial resort, but he could afford a beer. They're there to watch and support their local Rick Rouse, who's boxing against champ Dick Tiger. They go to the bar where they sit down, and one of his buddies says, "Hey, they don't have an attraction like Dean Martin's over at the Dunes and Frank Sinatra's at the Sands. You should do tricks like you do at home, jumping over things, and you be the attraction in Las Vegas." So Evil Knievel thought, yeah, that's exactly right. I'm going to contact the owner of this joint and convince him to hire me. So He calls up and the receptionist won't let him through. She's the gatekeeper to Sarno. So because he's a nobody, right, as far as Sarno is concerned, so he begins to disguise his voice as in, hey, I'm JC with Channel 8 News, and well, I understand Evil Knievel's going to jump your fountains on New Year's Eve. What time does that start? And hey, I'm Sammy Smith from Sports Illustrated. I'm supposed to come take pictures of this guy, Evil Knievel, jumping over your fountains on New Year's Eve weekend. Just making sure you have enough rooms for me and my entire crew. So he goes on like that until Sarno is never heard of it, click, to call me back. And then Evil Knievel calls with his lawyer accent. Hey, this is Saul Rosenberg. I understand that you are promoting an event in which my client, Evil Knievel, is to jump your fountains. The problem is we have no agreement, no contract. We haven't even talked to you about this. But Evil Knievel happens to be in town and available to meet with you tomorrow. So the Sarno says, send him right up. And then it's Evil shows up and it's, where you been, kid? I've been looking all over for you.
It just shows the kind of hype man that he was, his own personal hype man to get stuff done. But I think it's ingenious of how he lined everything up and he was getting all done on his own. So he meets Jay Sarno. They come to terms for this jump and then get into details, because when you drop this nugget on me, I don't think many people know about how many jumps were actually scheduled for Caesar's Palace.
Oh, yeah, that's right. They came up with the contract. Evil Knievel is to jump the fountains on New Year's Eve, 1967, and New Year's Day, 1968. What most people do know is that Evil Knievel crashed on New Year's Eve. So his next day jump was maybe postponed, ended up canceled. But yeah, that was like, you're right. Evil Knievel is an amazing marketer, but Sarno himself is no slouch. In fact, he took his kids to watch the stunt. And so they're on top of the portico share, the portico share with the best view in the house of Evil Knievel. Unfortunately, he crashes. He breaks both of his wrists, both of his ankles, his hip and his femur. And of course, he's got a concussion because he tumbles over like a rag doll. So these two kids thought they just saw a man die, right? Sarno reassures them, no, he was moving as they took him in an ambulance. But we'll go to the hospital and we'll go see Mr. Knievel and make sure that and I will assure you that he's okay. So they get to the hospital and, yes, Evil's hurt and he's hurt badly, but he's alert and awake enough to be flirting with nurses. And, so the kids are relieved, but when Evil sees his new friend Jay, he throws his sheets aside and says, Jay, thank God you're here. You got to get me out of here. I don't have insurance. Right? So Jay did a huge favor in the career of Evil Knievel at that very moment. He said, roll with me on this, kid, and we're going to make you famous. So he's got a plan. He starts handing out money to the people in the hallways of the hospital. Don't say nothing to nobody. And pays a doctor is sent out in front of the hospital to have a press conference. Yes, the world's most amazing daredevil, Evil Knievel, is in our hospital. He was scheduled to do a jump tomorrow, but that's delayed. We're promised that he's going to try again as soon as he awakes from this coma.
And
the story went on for like 30 days.
So they kept the ruse that he was, I mean, he was not fine, but he was talking, obviously. But the way they presented it to the press, including us, Channel 8 here in Las Vegas, was that he was in a coma. How long did they say that he was in a coma for?
They say he was in a coma. And so, like, maybe I'm talking out of turn because Evil Knievel stuck with it his whole life. Jim Rome, later on ESPN, was interviewing him, and he said, what's it like to be in a coma for 30 days? And Evil Knievel says, how should I know? I was in a coma.
You go back to it, though, was it 1967, right? 1967, 68. No social media, just us three television stage outlets here in Las Vegas to cover it locally. Yeah, you give a doctor $100, he's going to say what you want him to say, and they can keep the ruse going the entire time. There is, I don't want to give anything away, but inside the experience, you have something, what you guys have related to his jump is next level. I wanted to spend like hours just focusing on the stuff you guys have around the Caesar's Palace jump. So that alone is worth the price of admission inside the exhibit. When did all the toys and merchandise? So is the crash what put him on the map?
Yes, sir. Yeah, that put him on the map. He was in popular demand after that because it not only ran on Channel 8, but, Butte picked it up because that's his hometown. And then whatever towns he had scheduled in the future also ran. Look, this ding dong just crashed in Vegas. Promises he's going to get up and do it again. And he's coming to the state fair next week. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. We're talking to Joe P. He's with the Evil Knievel Experience, which opens up downtown in the Arts District this weekend. A big grand opening celebration on Saturday. We'll talk more about the festivities. You have some stunts planned for Saturday, which should be cool. But how long after then the Caesar's Palace crash do we get I think that Evil Knievel toy, that wind-up toy we're all so familiar with, if you grew up in that era? When does that come out in the Evil Knievel timeline?
Yeah, the toy came out in the early 1970s. So his real fame was about the span of 10 years. He did like a lifetime's collection of work in 10 years there. And in the 70s, he was a master of merchandising too. So he was the first action figure made after a real live breathing human being. And it was a wind up toy. So a lot of people our age would remember this toy. It's got a little gyro in it. It winds up like a crank. In fact, a lot of people walk into our museum and they give a knowing nod and do this like fishing reel motion, and you go wink. Yeah, we all had it.
Uh-huh.
Also, it's available over there in the gift shop.
Yeah, you guys have it
So,
for sale. Yeah, it's cool.
yeah. So that outsold Barbie in 1974. Huge hit.
That's crazy to me. And I didn't realize how many, and that's one of the features inside the Evil Knievel Experience, is just the rows and rows and rows of merchandise, from Halloween costumes. You were showing me some of the lunch boxes that they have, pinball machines,
Yeah.
slot machines, so many different pieces of merchandise.
Right. Esoterics like spray paint or WD-40 or bike chains.
We go to the Snake River, because that's one of the things you and I showed when we were doing our live hits together. He jumps the Snake River, but his original plan was he wanted to jump the Grand Canyon, but couldn't get approval for that.
Yeah, that was way back in the day. Stuart Udall was the Secretary of the Interior at the time, who nixed that idea. That's
And
not
so,
going to happen on federal property.
but then he has the ingenious idea of like, okay, well, if I can't jump the Grand Canyon, I'm going to jump the Snake River, and they had no problem with him doing that stunt.
That's right. That was not federal property, so he rented that property from I guess farmer or rancher or something. Yep.
And then we had the Caesar's Palace jump, but it's like the Snake River one is like launched him into immortality, I think, because that was a pay-per-view event. How many thousands of people showed up to watch that jump take place?
Yeah, that was crazy. There's no way for me to know how many people watched it on pay-per-view, but that was the pioneering effort of pay-per-view. He partnered up with Vince McMahon Jr., who at the time was working for his dad in wrestling, but at an outpost up in Connecticut. And Knievel got with him and suggested, look, we're going to sell tickets. And so they invented together, and not only invented, but like built pay-per-view. The infrastructure was a lot of cables, a lot of cameras, redundant cameras, microphones, crews, so that people could go to their local movie theater and, pay $5 and watch it. It was a disaster. He was supposed to jump a mile across this canyon, which he did. His parachute deployed early, and it dragged him down to the bottom of the canyon, another half mile. So people had paid a lot of good money at the time, driven to the movie theater to watch
Mhm.
about 10 seconds of, ew, what is this?
Still neat, though. I mean, what do they expect?
Oh,
It's
yeah.
still, it's how long? I mean, the whole thing should probably last 30 seconds to jump a canyon.
Yeah, that's true. Of course, he built these shows around the each event. So he'd have little people at some shows. He'd have clowns at some in his early days. The Walinda brothers would like walk across tight ropes. They'd have Jumping Joe going off a high dive into a little pool of water. So he built a whole spectacle out of each show.
What amazes me inside the Evil Knievel experience up on the second floor, you have not only the jumpsuit that he wore, not only the ramp that was used, but that's the actual rocket that was used that day.
Yes, that's right. So he built two rockets. They're less NASA and the more Wile E. Coyote type Acme. And we have an engine there too. It's hardly an engine. It's a water tank
Yeah.
or steam tank. You just pull the plug and off it goes into the wild blue yonder. So we've got the test one and the real one. The test one's got a great story too. Like as much as inspirational as he is as an athlete and he invented a sport, he's almost as interesting as a marketing guy, as a salesman, because with that test rocket that's upstairs, the other one is downstairs that he went to the bottom of a canyon in, spoiler alert. But on the test one, he made a festival there at Snake River Canyon, and they've got beer, and there's bikers that have come from all over the country and set up tents, and he's got dirt races. But one of the days early on, he invites the media in and says, "We're going to set off this test rocket. I just want to make sure that it works before I climb into this thing." And so they all get their cameras out to the cliff or the drop off of Snake River Canyon, and he's going to fire it unmanned. So he powers it up, but he only half powers it. So the steam is not, instead of 2,000 degrees, it's 500 degrees.
Uh-huh.
So it kind of takes off, but it limps in and it goes to the bottom of the canyon. Of course, that creates a big sensation with the media. They're like, "Holy mackerel, this guy's going to climb into this thing next week."
Yeah.
Right.
It was brilliant.
Yeah. He says, "I'm still going to do it. What do you think? I'm a man of my word."
But yeah, let's talk safety because I mean, he's doing these stunts, jumping over fountains, jumping over canyons, jumping over rattlesnakes. And
Yeah.
you're not talking the safety gear that we have today, let alone the bikes that we have today. What was the safety gear that Knievel wore when he would do these jumps?
Well, he wore a helmet.
Okay,
He's a
that's
big proponent of the helmet. Yeah.
but you actually have the helmet that he wore during the Caesar's Palace jump on display, correct?
Yes, that's one of my favorite artifacts in the timeline. We call the upstairs the timeline, and there's a whole bunch more interactives downstairs that we didn't see yesterday because we had no power. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's one of my favorite artifacts. In Knievel's early days, he had a circus where he'd blast through, or had other members of his crew blast through flaming boards, do wheelies, things like that. Of course, Knievel was the only one doing ramp to ramp stunts at the time. But part of so the circus was yellow and black. That's just like Knievel's colors in the early 60s. And then by 1967, he'd changed from the biker look. He didn't want to be associated with the black leather clad biker gangs at the time, and he wanted to show his patriotism. You know, at the time it was a lot of turmoil and Vietnam protesters and spitting on veterans and calling them baby killers. It was a bad time in America. He wanted to show that he was proud to be USA, so he built a suit that was red, white, and blue. So he spray painted his helmet red, white, and blue. When he crashed at Caesar's Palace, he skidded across the asphalt and concrete there, scraped up his helmet. It's almost shredded. So you get the red, white, and blue. And now when we visit the museum, we can see that there's yellow underneath. So it's really a kaleidoscope, and it's so cool to see the history uncovered.
Yeah, literally.
Unfortunately, it happened like that, but yeah.
You mentioned the power is out. So just Joe and I, our timeline, I was there live earlier this week with Good Day Las Vegas, and I pulled up at 4:30 in the morning. We go live at 5 o'clock, and you guys are literally installing this incredible sign that's now up on display outside the museum. But because of that, NV Energy, Nevada Power, they killed the power to the building for safety reasons. So we did our live shots with literally the lights that we had from our camera, and just seeing the experience with the lights from our camera only, it's just incredible. So I can't wait to go back this weekend when all the lights are on. You can see all the displays. Friday night there's a special media event, but let's talk about what's happening on Saturday, the actual like grand opening. What's happening outside? What can people expect when they show up?
Yeah, we've been working on the museum a long time, and we're so proud and happy to present that to Las Vegas. We're having a festival on Saturday from 10 until 2 with food trucks and beverages. And the funnest part is we're going to have real life stunts, ramp to ramp stunts. We've got motocross guys that are doing wheelies, backflips, and Superman style jumps. Those shows are at 11, 1, and 2. And then, of course, you can't just constantly keep going in 100-degree heat. So,
Yeah.
so they'll take a break, and guests can come in and hopefully buy boatloads of merchandise.
I did when I was leaving. I wanted to buy a bunch of stuff. I fell back in love with Evil Knievel. The one thing we never even touched on when I was there, and yet today is what's the virtual reality aspect of it that people can do?
Yeah, we totally missed that
Yeah.
the other day, JC. We totally missed it. The timing of that was crazy. Like, we've been working on this museum or this experience for 4 years, and then the 4-hour window that NV Energy needs to shut it down happened to be the same 4 hours you were there live. So yes, there's much VR, and I'm sorry that we missed it, but you're gonna have to come back.
I will.
We have a map where guests can point to their hometown, see the nearest jump that Evil Knievel did there. Some of them will have seen it. Some of them won't have been born yet. That's one neat one. Another one is more like a video game and tactile. So a guest will choose their speed, choose the ramp angle, choose the color of the motorcycle, choose what they're going to jump over: sharks, buses, trucks, and then choose what speed they're going to try. So it's a little more science-like, a little bit.
A tiny
One
bit.
is, then there's 2 more that are really great. One is broken bones. So we've got a skeleton there with a cape on and a helmet. Looks like a Knievel, right? And you could drag your fingers across, say the shoulder down the back to the hip. Then it will pop up whatever part you pick, say the hip, and it shows 3. You have 3 options. You can look at Ontario, or you can look at Toledo, or you can look at Dallas and see when he broke his hip. And do you want to watch a video of him breaking his hip? It's fun. But the most impressive one to me is a VR jump where people, whether they have ever ridden a motorcycle or even a bicycle, can throw their leg over a real motorcycle, just like Evil Knievel rode an XR750. It rumbles when the throttle goes. Fans blow this way when they go left, this way when they go right. The visor inside the motorcycle will show what it's like to jump over 17 police cars.
Whoa.
Yeah.
All right, I'm coming back when the power's on. I'm so excited for the grand opening. I'm so excited that this is not just a pop-up thing. This is, in case for any confusion, this is a permanent museum. It's in the arts district. It is the Evil Knievel Experience. Joe, thank you so much for your time this week, and thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate it, buddy. Congratulations.
So much fun. Happy landings.
Happy landings. Awesome. Thank you.